The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. Thrilled to be here with you this morning. Big exciting day that we have planned for you. We're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about topics having to do with autism, how you and I can be more efficient, more effective working with our children on the autism spectrum so that they can reach their fullest potential. Whether you're a parent, teacher, or practitioner, I know that that's something that's very important to you because it's very important to me. And together we can find tools and ask questions of experts that we'll have on the show so that we can get better at the things that we want to do. I always like to talk about progress because progress is available for all of our kids. There's a lot we talk about here. A lot of it has to do with ABA, applied behavior analysis. The reason why we talk about that as much as we do is that it is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. And I really have found it more important than ever this week to remind myself and remind everyone within the sound of my voice that it has been scientifically proven to be effective for all of our kids. If people are telling you that ABA is just for one area of autism, it's because they don't know the truth. Maybe they're just ill-informed, but we can work on that. We can help them to be better informed. ABA, applied behavior analysis, is an age-old science that is effective for all of us. In fact, for all living organisms, that it follows lines of behavior and has a huge area of study that helps us to know how to change behavior so that you can increase skills you want to see more of and decrease behavior you want to see less of. That's a big woohoo. That applies to us. It applies to our children who are on the spectrum. It applies to our children who are not on the spectrum. So we do talk about ABA because I think of it as a creative science. The longer I'm around ABA and autism, I see that it's a really creative art that you're given tools and you have to apply them in a really unique way to a unique child. So there's a lot to talk about. We cover everything from funding to how we feel to what we feed our kids. We're talking about it all here, and we hope that you're participating in the conversation. There are lots of ways that you can get in touch with us, and I'm going to ask Emily, our technical director, to start showing you some of those different ways on the screen that you have to choose from. But I want to remind you that if you're watching us live, and if you want to watch us live, there's only one place that you can do that, on autism-live.com. If you go there, you'll see a screen, and during the live show it says Shannon is answering right now. You can type into that box, hit enter, and it magically appears here on my screen. I know some of you wrote in some things yesterday that we had a lot of things going on that we're going to get to them today, even though they came from yesterday, but keep those things coming in. And if it says rebroadcast, of course you can take advantage of all the things that you see on the screen. But we hope that you will participate in the conversation. You never know when you ask a question how much you help people all around the world. You know, we're in 103 countries now, and so I remember from early days when my child was diagnosed with autism, sometimes I didn't even know the question to ask. But if I hung around other people and I heard the question that they asked, it gave me more information about things that I needed to ask questions about. So Ask the question. There is no wrong question. There is no bad question. Ask away. We'll try to hook you up with the answers. I want to remind you that I'm not an expert in autism or ABA, but we bring people in and I have access to experts on your behalf. So fear not. And I also want to remind you that starting a week from tomorrow, on November 7th, we have a new segment called Ask Dr. Doreen. This is when you get to ask Dr. Doreen Grampuchet any question under the sun. You can start writing and some of you have started sending in questions, and we really appreciate it, or you can ask them live. But what would you love to know from a true visionary, a true expert in the field of autism? Dr. Doreen Grampuchet will be with us on Wednesdays live. It'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time for an hour. Every Wednesday. I'm so excited. I'm beside myself about it. I can't wait to hear what you guys are going to ask, and I can't wait to hear her answers. I know I'm going to learn, and I know that we'll all be in a better place as a result of it. Okay, so don't forget that starting next Wednesday, November 7th, and then every Wednesday after that. Really, really exciting. We like to start every morning with something that I fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one anagram and try to figure out what in the hey nani nani are the experts talking about. It's so frustrating, right? When you're at the meeting and they start using these words and you have no idea what they mean. Sometimes you're brave enough to ask, what does this mean? And they tell you more jargon. It's like digging a hole. You're just getting deeper and deeper. Well, I like to think of this the same way we teach our children, one little bit at a time. We get one word, one phrase, and understand it in conjunction with our child, and then we can just add on from there. So eventually we sit at the meeting and we understand what's being said. Really important to make friends with the jargon. Okay, today we're taking on one of those terms. It was one of my least favorites, but it's important, so we're going to take it on. It is SD. Do you notice it's a capital S, it's a capital D, but the capital D is smaller? All right. So what does it mean when somebody says, well, the SD... all right, let's look at our actual definition. It's a circumstance or action that precedes reinforcement. Okay, but what it actually stands for is discriminative stimulus. That's what that S and the D stands for, discriminative stimulus. Don't you think it should be a capital D with a small s? This part I don't get. It's okay, it doesn't matter. We don't need to solve that for ourselves. But a circumstance or action that precedes reinforcement, that sounds like something we could get our heads around, right? But let's look at our working definition. What you say or do to get the child to do the desired response. So when we're talking about a lesson that we're going to do with our child, you and I will talk about, okay, well, what do we do or we say to start the lesson, to signal to the child, all right, this is a teaching moment. And when you first start to work with a child, the child isn't going to get that, right? But eventually what you see is when you do enough of this with your child, when you're starting to introduce something new, the child realizes, okay, when we sit in this place and you say or do something, I'm going to get reinforcement for it, which means they come to us in a way that they're ready to work. So the more you do this kind of work with your child, the easier it gets down the road. It's really kind of an amazing thing. But we always want to be clear. We talk about taking a little moment out of time, just ripping it out of time and saying we're really going to pare away everything else. We're going to have an SD, which means we say or do something. The child is going to do the behavior, hopefully, and then we give them reinforcement. So the SD is the thing that you say or do that signals, if you do this, you're going to get reinforcement. Does that make sense? You can think of it as the thing that you say or do, but just know that the experts are going to say SD. And sometimes we talk on the show about how to teach a certain lesson and give some suggestions. And I've been leaving the SD out of it, but I'm starting to put them into the PowerPoints for you guys because we do need to make friends with this term. It is something that you're going to hear your ABA therapist say. It's something that you're going to hear the person who's designing your child's program say. So I'm doing the big push this month for us to make friends with this term. It was always the one that I rejected. And you don't have to worry about it too much, but just know it's the thing that you say or do that starts the lesson. So if I'm teaching, if my target is compliance, but the behavior I'm going to start working on right now is asking the child to come here, then my SD would be me saying, come here. Then the child comes to me and I give them reinforcement. Yay! I give them tickles. Maybe I take a toy and I shake it in front of them and let them play with it for a second. Yay, you got reinforced for it. But the SD was saying, come here. Now, is that the only SD for come here? Not at all. In fact, we talked a little bit about gestures. We're going to talk more about gestures next week. I could do this. That's an SD too for come here. So lots of different ways that we can do SDs, but it's the thing that starts it all. It's the thing we say or do that signals to the child, if you do this, I'm going to give you some form of reinforcement that is meaningful to you. SD, discriminative stimulus, but don't worry about that. Just remember, SD means the thing you say or do. All right. We always have a question of the day for you. The question of the day is meant to get you thinking, participating, and providing information that is so helpful to people all around the world. Really encourage you to participate on Facebook or to write in during the live show. But our question today is, how do you help your child be more flexible? What kinds of things? Yesterday we asked you what flexibility issues your child has, right? And a lot of you wrote in with a wide variety of stuff. Very interesting, the kinds of things that our kids can get hung up on, right? Well, today's the other side. How have you been able to help your child? What do you do when your child's being inflexible? It may seem like something that you haven't even thought about, but it might help somebody someplace else that realize, I haven't tried that. Certainly at this point with my child, when he's being inflexible, it's mostly a conversation at this point. Last night was a perfect example. My child was engaged in some very inflexible communication that was making me nuts. We were going to go to a haunted house, and I had described it to him, and I said, it's not a scary haunted house. We had seen it on the news, and they described it as being like the haunted house at Disneyland. And, so very kind of spooky, friendly, kid appropriate. So I used those words when explaining it to him. I said, it's like the haunted house at Disneyland. Not thinking about the fact that he would take that knowledge and put it through his filter and say to himself, ride, right? Okay, makes sense. I can get that. And I was not being completely clear with my communication. And we got to the haunted house and he saw it and he said, well, where's the ride? And I said, what ride? There's no ride. He said, you said there was a ride. And I said, oh, no, I didn't say there was a ride. He goes, you said it was like the haunted house at Disneyland, which clearly is a ride. And I said, you're absolutely right. Forgive me, I'm very sorry. Here's how the misconception. I was talking about the decor and you thought ride, and he said, okay, right? We've got it all straightened out. And we have to walk a long way back to the car. And the whole time he's, well, you said it was a ride. No, I didn't say it was a ride. I said it was like, and there are a lot of things at Disneyland, at the Haunted Mansion, that it could be. You said it was right. And I would talk about it and we would solve it and we would get another 10 feet and he would say, well, if you hadn't said it was a ride, right? And about the 30th time that he brought it up, I just totally stopped where we were. And I said, you know what? You're being very inflexible right now. We've already discussed this. It was a misunderstanding and you keep bringing it up. Why? What's going on with you that you keep bringing it up? What's the big disappointment? What's going on? And he was able to language it and say, well, I was all nervous that it was going to be this scary thing. We got it all out in the open. And I said, but you have to stop. You seriously have to stop right now. And end of this story. And if you will stop, then we're going to stop at the pumpkin patch. Okay. Right? So there's some reinforcement for stopping the behavior, being aware of it. That's where we are right now. When he was younger, there was no discussing it, right? I had to completely distract and do other things. But now I can say to him, all right, that would be the 300th time you've said that, and it's not fun anymore. And he goes, oh, okay. I want to stop that then. But what do you guys do to help your child be more flexible? I would love to hear from you guys, because it just was one of those things last night where Stop it with the ride. Yes, I said the wrong words. Mea culpa, right? Okay, we always have a topic of the week, and clearly our topic this week is flexibility. For us, right? That was one of the things that we talked about yesterday, is that we have to be flexible too. I know as an autism parent, it feels like we're constantly being asked to put ourselves in the shape of a pretzel. But we can be more flexible. And when we're more flexible, it helps them to be more flexible. And we can work on our inflexibility, and we can work on their inflexibility. So it's one of the things that we're going to be talking about a lot this week. And doesn't it go well with Halloween? Because Halloween forces us all to be flexible. It's a day when all the rules shift. None of the rules apply. The things that you wear to work are different. The things that they wear to school are different. Going up to total strangers, dressed like axe murderers, it's all different. The things that a lot of them eat, all different. Flexibility. And then we're supposed to be flexible enough that on Thursday, everything automatically goes back to what it was. Yes, good luck with that. It's a crazy, crazy day, but fun if we are flexible. Okay, so to that end, some of the different things that we're going to talk about this morning, we're hoping to get some time in to talk about cognition, but we have a very special guest that's going to be joining us via Skype in just a couple of minutes. Tamie Salter is with a company, and I don't know that I'm going to say it right. We think it's a Koule, or it might be Koule, but it is a new toy that can help our children to learn and interact. And we've seen some video of it online. Tamie had sent us some information. I'm really excited to know more about it. It looks very fun and very educational. So we're really excited that she's going to be joining us via Skype in just a couple of minutes. And of course, at the top of the hour, we're going to be joined by BCBA Evelyn Gould. We weren't able to be with her last week, so I'm really looking forward. We need a dose of Evelyn, don't we? Evelyn, who sorts it all out for us and says it's okay to feel what we're feeling, but we want to be able to move past that, right? So Evelyn will be with us at 11 o'clock. We're also going to get to the questions and comments that you guys wrote in last week, and you can go ahead and write in comments and questions if you have them for Evelyn at the top of the hour. All of that and more, and as I always say to you, your questions take precedence. We will stop doing the other stuff to be able to take your questions. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Tamie Salter with this really unique new toy just in time for the holidays. Stick with us. Currently, in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism, my beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're going to take the chickens. But things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Granpichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
Second.
You are a smart cookie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
We are extremely grateful for the amazing job CARD has done in helping our daughter. Our daughter today, just in 4 months, I think is a totally different child than when she started with CARD. I kind of see it as, it seems like her brain in a way was asleep, and now that we've gotten so many services, we've seen her wake up.
Did you have some gases?
Recovery is possible if you take the right steps, if you're willing to put in all the hard work. And 7.5 years, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's worth every little bit, and CARD's been there with us every step of the way.
I have 2 children with autism. I can't imagine a day without CARD or the therapists. They've been so instrumental in helping us with our kids and shaping their lives and helping us help them.
Thank you, Christina Big Alex.
Thank you, Jackie and Mariana.
We've tried other things before ABA, but the most beneficial thing has been ABA services, and I'd be the first person to tell any newly diagnosed family that you have to contact an ABA provider, and if you're lucky enough to have CARD, you're very blessed.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable, and recovery from autism is possible.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. We're joined right now by our guest, Tamie Salter. She has a new product that is about to come out on the market, and we're told that it's called Koule. It is a ball, and I'm going to ask Tamie exactly what this amazing product does. So there she is. Hi, Tamie. How are you?
Hello, how are you, Shannon?
Good. I have to stop for just a second and ask if we have your permission to be talking to you on the air and having your image broadcast around the world.
You do.
All right, now we can continue. All right, so Tamie, you had sent us a link to this, and I went to the site and looked at some of the videos, and I thought this was really cool. We're going to show a video in just a couple of seconds, but describe for our viewers at home what this is and what it does.
Okay, so Koule is an interactive ball that has robotic type technologies inside, like mechanics and electronics. So it allows for an interactive device that has movement built in.
And we're looking at your website right now. And I want to tell people that you can go to www.qinnovations.com. It's QUE innovations with an S at the end.com. And there's a lot of really cool videos that are on there about what this product does. I think it's a great name for it, Tamie, because it really is cool. The product, though, is spelled Koule. So, Tamie, give us a little background on, did you invent this, or how did you come across this product?
Okay, so I've been in autism research for over 10 years. I did a PhD in developing robotic devices for children with autism. So over my PhD, and then I went on to do a postdoctoral degree, I looked at a variety of different devices and how children responded to them. And without fail, Koule was the best device that I worked with. The largest variety of children across the board like to interact with Koule, and it sustains their interaction longer than any other device I work with. And then it also has the added benefit that it's so mobile that it gets children moving and involved in interactive play.
Okay, so what kinds of things can you do with the Koule with your child? You got a ball and it moves around. What kinds of lessons can you work on with a child?
Okay, so Koule is based on the premise of getting children moving, because we now know that this also affects not only your physical health, but it also affects your cognitive potential and your emotional well-being. So all the games involve being interactive and moving, but they have a different focus, whether it's learning or social interaction. And I'll give you an example of 2 different games.
Okay.
So we have a colour game, and it's based around children learning colours. So the idea is that we now know from a scientific point of view that if you learn while you're moving, you're learning a better capacity than if you're static while you're learning. So rather than just looking at a screen or using a computer or something, if you're physically involved, you'll learn it better. It's a bit like the driver learns the route and the passenger doesn't.
Exactly. That's cool.
So Koule has different levels of the colour game. And for instance, Koule will say to a child, pick me up when I am red. And then it rolls around the floor and it changes from blue to green to purple to yellow. And the children have to grab it when it's red. So because they're physically involved, that we hope they'll learn colours better than when they're static. And because of all the touch sensing on Koule, it knows whether they picked it up at the right time. So if they do it at the wrong time, they get a like, and if the correct time, they go, hey.
So they get that automatic reinforcement if they've done it correctly, which I absolutely love. That was one of the videos that I watched, was explaining the colors, and you have that on your website. So if people want to go to that Q Innovations, they can see. But it's not the only lesson that the ball can teach. There's a bunch of different things you can do with it, right?
Yes. So if we look at another game, say emotions, this is kind of from my autism background, is I kept thinking, sometimes those with autism don't like looking at human faces, but we use faces to try and teach them about emotions. So how about if we had a device that can teach them in a full-bodied way rather than using a face? So Koule expresses happy by glowing yellow, going fast, laughing, playing happy music. And then it expresses sad by going slow, glowing blue, playing sad music and crying. And it expresses anger by flashing red, going forwards and backwards in a jerky motion and roaring.
Which is pretty hilarious. It's a first of all, it's a pretty ball. It's kind of see-through and it lights up, and you can see kind of some mechanics in it, it looks like. So it's fascinating to begin with. And I would think that there's a whole range of fine motor and gross motor lessons, but I'm thrilled that there's also some cognitive lessons that come with it too. So if you get the ball, how many lessons does it automatically come pre-programmed with?
That's something we're deciding at the moment. It really depends on the actual commercial development cost. It will come with a minimum of 5 games, but we're hoping up to 11. We actually have 11 kind of worked out, and we're hoping that there'll be the full 11 on board as it ships out of the door.
And then I understand too that you can use your smartphone to load it and program it with more lessons. Is that correct?
Yes, so the idea is Koule can be either completely autonomous, so it works by itself, it moves by itself, it reacts by itself. There'll be buttons on boarded to help you change from one game to another. Or you can have added functionality by using a smartphone. So either it makes things easier, like if you want different playlists, say the game Touch and Go, which is kind of the standard game on Koule, just where the touch sensing plays different sound bites or music, whatever you want. It's easier to load different sound packages from your smartphone. And if you want to develop your own package, it's easier if you've got a smartphone.
Okay, cool. I keep saying cool, and that's the name of the product. So how long before we can get one of these?
Okay, we're hoping to deliver them in December 2013.
Okay.
It will be the latest which we'll deliver them in.
Okay, so it's going to be a little while yet. Emily's got a video that I want her to show that actually shows kids playing with a Koule, but I think we can keep talking, Tamie. So a pretty fascinating toy, and you've been testing it with different children? There's the Koule.
We've tested it for over 10 years. We've developed it along that period. Through all the trials that I've done is that that's developed all the fact that if you have a smartphone, you can completely control it, as in turn the lights off for one child if a child doesn't like lights, or turn the sound down or off. So it's over that 10-year period that I really spent time with carers and parents of children of autism and learn about what would be the best device for them.
Well, it's a really fascinating thing, and we're watching the kids right now, and they're loving it. I can imagine this would be a hit in a room full of kids. And it's very interactive. We're not able to see all the different games that it plays, but I want to encourage people to go to that website, QUE, innovations.com. And if you're interested in a specific lesson and knowing how the ball would work with that, you have really great videos. But we're watching the ball moving on its own, and children interacting. There's all different kinds of games that they're playing, and we don't necessarily know what they are. But it's definitely cool. I have to say, it's a very cool thing. And I have a son who's on the spectrum and who loves anything robotic. And it looks like it's pretty durable, too. At one point, you show a child who throws it down, and it's not like it cracks open. It's pretty durable.
Yeah, in the 10 years that we've tested with it, we've had two things break, the shell and the gears. And the commercial product, the shell is going to be made of the same material that they make airplane windshields out of.
Okay, cool.
That should completely eliminate that. And we're working on mechanical systems to make the gears really robust. Because obviously, all children are very rough with toys, and it's a ball, and they expect to be able to be rough with it. We understand that. Absolutely.
Well, I think it is literally a cool product, and we can't wait to hear more about it. And I understand you're going to be doing a Kickstarter for it?
Yeah, within 1 to 2 weeks, we hope to be on Kickstarter to raise the funds to manufacture the device.
All right. Well, we will look forward to hearing about that. When you're on Kickstarter, will you let us know, and we'll announce on the show so people can go and participate in the Kickstarter?
That would be great. We'd love that.
Well,
help and support.
Well, it's a wonderful, wonderful product, and I thank you for being with us. Want to tell everybody at home, again, QInnovations.com. Check it out. It's cool. It really is cool. Thank you, Tamie. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be back in just a couple of minutes with our cognition tip for the week. Stick with us.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet. Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism, and now you get to ask her questions every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on Ask Dr. Doreen.
My son.
My son.
My brother.
My daughter is one of the
1 in 88 children
on the autism spectrum.
I have autism.
I have autism.
I have autism,
and I want you to see me as an individual
and not as a label.
I want to find out why my brother has autism.
I want the government to say that autism is a public health crisis.
I need to know who will take care of my child when I'm gone.
I want to know what treatments.
What solutions are out there for my child?
We need insurance reform in all 50 states.
I want autism to be an unavoidable topic for those running for office this fall.
I want my students to be
safe in school.
I want the bullies to leave me alone.
Autism Speaks encourages all Americans to ask candidates, how will you make a difference for those living with autism?
I want a Senate,
a president, a Congress
that recognizes autism
as an urgent public health
crisis it is.
I want our lawmakers to listen.
Make your voice heard this election. Visit autismvotes.org.
Welcome back. It's time for our cognition tip of the week. And today we're talking about thinking. What an amazing skill thinking is, what an amazing word thinking is, and stop for a moment and think about all the different ways that we think. We need to teach our children about the words thinking, about the action thinking, and all the different things that thinking entails. So I made a little list here of some of the different things we have to teach, that there are many kinds of thinking. Thinking as a suggestion for action. Ooh, think about who you'd like to teach that to, right? That first of all, we think about something, but thinking isn't just something we do passively, it's a suggestion for taking action. We need to think about thinking when we're uncertain about how to act. How do we think? Because we can't know what we should actually do, right? So we're thinking it through. Thinking as an ongoing activity, that somebody can be sitting there and thinking about where they were a week before or where they'd like to be. So thinking can be in the past, it can be in the future. And thinking as an opinion or a judgment. Well, I think we should do this, and you think we should do that. It's such an interesting field, cognition and thinking about thinking, and especially for our kids on the spectrum, because this is an area where a lot of our kids are just, shall we say that there is a deficit. They're a little bit behind the curve in terms of the typical development. And if you stop and look at it from all these different ways, you can begin to realize how it could be overwhelming. Because the child not only has to think about thinking in all these ways for themselves, but they have to begin to realize that other people are thinking totally separate things at the same time that they're thinking. There's a lot of thinking going on. So lots of different things that we can do to help our children with thinking. We want to help them with inferring other thoughts based on non-vocal cues. So if somebody is sitting there and they're, making a face and going like this, the child has an ability to think through and think, all right, based on what I know about this person and the kinds of faces they're making and the kinds of gestures, what might they be feeling? What could I do that might change that? Stop and think about it. Very, very involved. We want to help them to infer others' thoughts based on their preferences. This is a fascinating set of lessons, and I can remember as we were building up to this with my son, and it was right around Halloween. And we were talking to him. We had done preferences for a while beforehand. That's a prerequisite for this lesson. So he knew, for instance, that one of his therapists just loved Batman and anything to do with Batman. And so we could say to him, what do you think Peter might like for a gift? And it would be something to do with Batman. And we'd worked on that with family members and friends. Well, how do we know they like this? What's their preference? So what do you think they would like was the next phase of it. And I remember we wanted to make sure that our therapist had gifts for the holidays. And I had all these earrings for the female therapist, and I said to him, what do you think, this one person who worked on his case, who was his supervisor, I said, what do you think she would like? And he said, well, I think she would like the black ones. And I was amazed and said, well, why do you think that? And he said, well, stop and think about it. She has black hair, she likes to wear black a lot, and she always has really cool black shoes. So I think she would want black earrings because clearly she likes black. It was this whole very thought out, lovely, right? Taking other people's perspectives, thinking about it, right? Putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 24 appropriately, right? We want to teach our kids about the relationship between thinking, feeling, saying, and doing. Now, it's not just our kids that could benefit from this, right? That if we recognize that the kinds of things we're thinking in our heads, talk about flexibility and inflexibility, when we're thinking, I can't do this, we are then going to be inflexible in how we do the things that we do. So there is a correlation between what we think, what we say, how we feel, and what we do. And helping our children to know that so that we help them to self-talk correctly and realize that other people are thinking, saying, and feeling and doing. So if somebody is saying something negative, it might be because they're feeling negative, because they're thinking negative, and that it doesn't necessarily have everything to do with them. These are really big life skills for all of us, let alone our kids on the spectrum. And thinking about consequences before and after doing something. So for that child who's really impulsive and they want to stick their hand on the stove, having to think it through and thinking, okay, I've done that before and it hurts. So the consequence of doing this is going to be that I'm going to be in pain, so I'm not going to do it. Thinking that all through. And I think, here's our thinking example. Okay, so the setting is we're getting the child used to the term think to denote desires and preferences. So the parent or the teacher, this would be our SD, right, says, what do you think we should do? And the child, we prompt them to do this immediately, initially say, I think we should go to the park. They're using the term think. We have a video of someone working with a child with another example of using think. Let's take a look at that.
What do you think this looks like?
Cookie.
Why do you think it looks like a cookie?
Because it has chocolate chips.
Oh, that's cool. But I think it looks like something else.
What do you think it looks like?
I think it kind of looks like a strawberry with seeds. Good job.
And how fun to look at things from different perspectives. We're teaching different perspectives. I think it's this, you think it's that. There's no wrong answer, right? And the child is getting reinforcement, the interaction, all to help our children to understand this really huge concept of thinking. Amazing set of lessons. If you're interested in these lessons and any of the lessons that go with preferences and helping a child to get to the point where you can start working on thinking, you'll want to go to Skills. This is, I'm a big fan of Skills. We use this at home, and Emily has very nicely put the address there that you can go to. Fabulous, fabulous lessons, and they're really worthwhile. You get to take it a little bit at a time and see your child's ability to understand thinking grow. Absolutely love it. Check it out. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and first answer and address some of the comments and questions you guys wrote in yesterday and your answers to today's question of the day. Stick with us.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and this is my son Jem. We're here today at the Home Depot. You might know that Home Depot is famous for giving free classes to adults on lots of things like tiling and other home crafts. Well, they also have free classes for kids as well. It's called the Kids Workshop. We love doing that, don't we, Jem?
Yeah.
It's cool. So come on inside with us and let's do a craft.
Yay.
The Kids Workshop is a program that's been around with Home Depot almost since we've been a company, and it's been developed to allow kids in the community to come in and give them an opportunity to build something, to be able to create something and be able to take just simple wood pieces and put them together with nails and hammers and screwdrivers and then paint them.
So you do this every first Saturday of the month.
Any Home Depot that you go to on the first Saturday of every month between 9 and 12, you can join different associates throughout different stores and build these projects with these kids.
And do they have to do anything before beforehand, or can they just show up on that Saturday?
All they need to do is show up. We have all the tools, all the materials that the kids will need. We have aprons that we give to the kids that they can take home and maintain their pins. They get pins on a regular basis for completing projects. With that, they can keep track of how many projects they've done. And
it's all free.
It's all absolutely free, all provided.
Which is wonderful. And Wilson, I have to say, you know, you guys devised this for all kids to be able to do this.
Correct.
What I particularly love about it as an autism mom, it gives my child a place to come and learn a new skill, to socialize with kids of all kinds.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here for. Home Depot is definitely loves to be involved with the community and bring the community in to work with us. That's what we love to do.
Don't forget that this Saturday is the Saturday when Home Depot has their kids workshop. It's the first Saturday of every month, so that will be this Saturday. Such a great event. It's free. You can take as many children as you have. You don't have to pre-register for it. I absolutely love that. I encourage you to go earlier because depending on the craft and the day and what else is going on, it's very well attended, and sometimes they do run out. A lot of times they will give you a craft that they have left over from weeks past, but I would suggest getting there earlier as opposed to later. Really, really fun. You don't have to stay for the whole event. They have painting, a painting station, which is really fun. But sometimes sensory-wise, you want to work up to it a little bit because there's hammers and things that are making noise, and for some of our children, it can be sensory difficult to begin with. But I can tell you that once a month, you can go and you can see over a year a difference in how much noise your child can handle, what their fine motor and finger and hand skills are, and the painting involved. They grow. It's amazing. So I encourage you to go to that this Saturday at the Home Depot. Free. Don't we love free? We love the Home Depot for that. Okay, yesterday you guys were writing things in and we briefly touched on them because I didn't want to not touch on them at all, but we didn't have enough time to talk about it, and I wanted to talk about some of them today and remind you that Evelyn Gould's going to be in a little while, and this first one I'm specifically going to ask her about as well. But somebody wrote in the comment about flexibility. My child has challenges being inflexible at potty time. There is a structure required for success, including who the chaperone is, the order of activities, etc. And boy, this is one of those things that we see a lot of, right? Inflexibility around all the things that happen in the bathroom, whether it's using the toilet, whether it's washing your hands, brushing the teeth, taking a shower, taking a bath. The kids tend to have some area in there where they get a little bit stuck. I don't know why that is. As a parent, there is a part, because I've talked about this before, that my son tends to get discombobulated in the restroom, and my thing is I'm always wondering, is it because there's so many shiny surfaces that kind of throw things off, where he's seeing his reflection everywhere, or is it because it's an echoey place? It tends to be like all hard surfaces, so sound bounces around. Is it a combo platter of the two, or is it other stuff? Is it because water can run in there? It's a funky little place if you stop and think about it. There's all kinds of interesting and weird smells. There's water running there. We don't have water running in the living room, right? And it's echoey and shiny. It's a bizarre little room. Or does it have nothing to do with that? I don't know. But we do see that kids tend to have a higher percentage of flexibility issues in that room than other rooms. And in terms of the potty, we talk about generalization all the time and how important it is when you begin working on toilet training because of all these other things to plan for generalization. And very early on when you're doing toilet training, to make sure that you change things in the bathroom so that you don't get an inflexibility problem. Sometimes a child is hardwired to the point where you could try generalization and what you're going to have is a problem, and you go say, no, I'm going to work on toilet training and we'll work on all this other stuff later on, which is totally a choice to make and a worthwhile choice to make if what your focus is working on the toilet training. And then in other cases, sometimes you just didn't know, or whoever was working with your child didn't know, and you didn't plan for generalization, and so you got some catch-up work to do later on to make it so that your child can be more flexible. The good news is, no matter what the circumstance, we can work on and help our children to be more flexible around those bathroom issues, including all the potty issues. But you know, the experts, I have heard them speak on this on many occasions, and I am no expert on this, but I will tell you what I hear them say: moving slower than molasses in January going uphill is the core of the equation and how you get success here. That especially when it's around the body functions, stop and think about it. You know, you have preferences there, so you don't want to do anything that's going to upset the child and cause the sensory issues and the tantrums and the meltdowns to kick in. So move very, very slowly. Focus on reinforcing something that's different. Be creative about how you can do something different. Even if it's just that, like, let's just, and there are so many different components in terms of what you're talking about here. Even if there's a chaperone that they prefer to go to the bathroom with as opposed to somebody else, try having I don't know whether the door is shut or the door is open, but having somebody let's say that the door is shut and they have to have a specific chaperone, having somebody outside the door standing very far away but talking and seeing if they can tolerate that, and then moving the person closer, still outside the door but talking, and moving closer and closer and closer until, and maybe that takes 6 months to a year, but really incrementally shifting what is tolerable. We've talked last week about systematic desensitization, moving little baby steps, and if you see that something's not being tolerated, you back up to the last place where it was tolerated and move super duper slowly. But we can take these things on, and it's important to. I think it's really important to be working with a BCBA who can help you to discern when is the right time to work on it, because it's all about priorities. You know, when is this something that's preventing you and your family from enjoying life, and when is it just that peripheral thing that we say, we've got other things to work on right now, we'll come back for this. But really helpful to have a professional, a BCBA who is experienced with autism to help you through those kinds of things. But I want you to know, very doable, very, very doable to change that behavior. Just, we want to go really slow. Also wanted to talk about the fact, we were talking about wandering yesterday on Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and how prevalent it is, elopement and wandering, so prevalent with our kids. And they were saying in the study as much as 47% of children on the autism spectrum engaging in that kind of behavior in a way that's serious and of concern. It's a really high number, as opposed to 18% of kids who aren't on the spectrum in the same household. They were looking at siblings. Really, really high disparity between those two numbers. And somebody had written in and shared that they had a tracking device for their child. And of course, there are lots of different tracking devices. We've featured some of them here on the show. And certainly, if your child is a flight risk, you want to consider, as you're helping them, hopefully through ABA, to address why they're eloping and why they're wandering. While they're doing that, you have to make sure everything is safe. And of course, that might mean a fence, that might mean extra locks on the door, but we really encourage you to have some sort of device that can help you to track your child really quickly, so that you have some level of peace of mind if they are, let's face it, it all comes down to human behavior and human error, and people make mistakes, and a door gets unlocked and the child is gone. I can attest to this. That's exactly what my child did. We had a door lock, a hotel lock, And actually, I don't remember whether it was that I forgot to put it on or he had learned how to open it, but he was down the street and down the sidewalk and almost to the street when I realized that he was gone. And I'll lay awake tonight thinking about that, just having talked about it, you know? But important to have those devices. But the person who wrote in said we had the device and we had the child wanting to wear it at school, and school said no, because there was an element of it that was going to allow for possibly recording things that were going on, and school said no. And what the parent wrote in was that they were afraid that we used the device to spy on a nonverbal autism classroom. How ridiculous. And that, of course, their fear that we were listening in made us wonder if we should be listening in. That sends a shiver up my spine, quite frankly, because why a nonverbal autism classroom would prevent a child from having a tracking device for fear that you were watching them. I think you're absolutely right to have some concern about what is it they're afraid that you're going to see. We've talked before on the show about there's a big movement, of which I'm a firm believer in, that there should be cameras in the classroom. Because people need to be accountable. We have cameras in banks, right, to guard the money. How about if we guard our children? And how about if we make sure that our children are safe and that, I don't care, I am a former teacher, and I think that it is paramount that our children get a great education, but ask any decent teacher, any decent principal on their list of hierarchy of things to do, our children being safe at school is the number one. It comes before education. And if your child needs a device because they're an eloper, then the school, that's a civil rights issue. Don't get me started. That makes me mad. But I thank you for writing in and telling us about that. But shame on your school for not allowing your child to wear that because of their paranoia. I'd like to go there and talk to them. Get me hepped up. That's unbelievable and frightening to me, quite frankly. And I would love to know what you guys ended up doing about it. And if you need any help and support with that, because I'd like to write them a letter. Anyway, now that my blood pressure is up, and I'm sure yours is more. We're going to take a break and come back and look at your answers to the question of the day very briefly before we get to the A word. So stick with us.
My name is Rocky.
Autism used to affect 1 in every 10,000 children. Now it affects 1 in every 91 kids.
TACA is one of 5 organizations helping families living with autism today.
Our kids came back to life. There's a whole community out there, and now we're a part of it.
Oh, TACA has a place for me.
To find TACA, go to www.tacanow.org.
Please.
Here we are. Welcome back. And I am just bringing up your answers to the question of the day. And that takes me a minute. Sorry for that. We'll look at this site first. Okay, so our question of the day today, we're talking about flexibility all this week and looking to see where the question of the day is, what your child is inflexible about and what you do to help your child to not be as inflexible. And I go to regularly, excuse me, I can't type and think at the same time. What is my problem here? We check out your answers on Facebook. Why? My Facebook has done something really bizarre here and I have no idea what it is. I have no idea what's happening. It's a very, very bizarre thing. In any case, we go to Facebook to see what you guys have to say to us. And let's go to another one. It's not taking it. Facebook does not like me today, and that frequently happens. It's a very bizarre thing. But we want to know this week what you guys are what your flexibility issues are, what your children's flexibility issues are, and how you help your child to be flexible. That was today's question. So somebody wrote in and said, my child is really good with flexibility. And you know what? I love that, and I love that you took the time to write that in, because it reminds us that our kids are all individuals. They don't all have, it's not like there's a stock set of problems and issues and challenges, and all of our kids have them. Another person wrote in and said, I use the first then method. Really helps, especially if it's something we really need to get done that she doesn't want to do. So I'm assuming what you do is say, well, first we're going to do this and then we're going to do that, to help them with their inflexibility. Another person said, I give her a lot of options to choose from and make them all fun. And what we see a lot of times with flexibility issues and also with anxiety issues, which was our topic last week, that some of it just comes down to being in control of something. Don't you feel that sometimes? Sometimes you're having a day and you go, I just would like to have control over one thing, to be able to start it, finish it, and put it in a done pile and have control over it, and how much peace of mind that would give you personally. For our kids sometimes, imagine how much control they have to give up in the world. First of all, because they're kids. Second of all, because sometimes communication is hampered. And third, that goes hand in hand with that. Not only can they not tell us that the communication isn't going expressively, it isn't coming in receptively really clear a lot of times too. Haven't you ever been someplace where someone was speaking in a way that you couldn't understand, whether it was a different language, or they were speaking so fast, or they had an accent, and you saw other people moving and doing things, but you didn't know what to do? It's a very frustrating anxiety moment, and you revert back to what's safe. Well, I want to do it this way. So we can begin to understand why our kids have some flexibility issues sometimes, because it's all whirring by so fast and they'd like to have a little control. So I love this, giving them options and making all of the options fun. And that makes us have to think about our flexibility issues. So if you see the child starting to react because you're asking them to do something in a specific way, leaving room for the fact that maybe there's a way that they're going to do it that's slightly different, and that's okay. Giving them the choice of doing it a different way. Sometimes I'll say to my son, I need you to go put your shoes on, and I need you to brush your teeth, and I need you to use the bathroom before we're going to go, and I need you to hurry, hurry, hurry. And I said them in a specific order because I thought that's how they're going to happen. And he goes off to the restroom, and I'll say to him, what are you doing? Well, you told me I had to do these things. I want to go to the bathroom first. Oh, okay. Okay. Do that first. All right. Absolutely. Giving them choices, and I love this, making it fun. Wonderful. All right, we need to go to the A word. It's that time. This is the lovely documentary being made at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, following a little boy, Jack Riley, and we're going to be watching early on in the series. He's about 10 weeks into therapy, and take a look at how he's doing now. This is, he's starting to really interact, still has some inflexibility issues, especially around food, but we're starting to see that more often he is relating and interacting, and he's a bit of a sponge at this point, but sometimes he's still going to have problems and issues because there's a lesson further on down the road that we haven't gotten to yet. So while there's progress, it doesn't mean that everything is perfect yet. Take a look. This is the A word.
Out of the egg?
Egg, see?
Egg. Egg. Can you say g? Say egg. Egg. Good trying. Miss Jessica's here. Yay!
Oh, it's going to be a fun day.
Yay! Hi, Riley. Hi, Miss Jessica.
Hi, Miss Jessica.
What's this? Baby. Baby? Who's this? Is this a mommy?
Buddy.
Yeah? Who else is in here?
Buddy.
Is this a daddy? Daddy? That's a daddy? Daddy.
Buddy.
And a mommy. And a what? And a what? Say and a baby. Does the baby go in here? Say sit down. Say sit down.
Okay.
Yeah, you gonna go inside? Whoa! Woo, you gonna fly in the sky? There, let's go. Up the stairs. Let's go sit down.
Okay.
Yeah, sit down. Ooh. Okay, take off. Bye. See you later. Right now we're working on functional pretend play, which involves having him play with toys appropriately. For instance, having an airplane and putting the people in the airplane and flying it appropriately, so that when he does go to preschool, because other kids are doing imaginative play too, creative play, so he would be able to play with the other kids as well, appropriately and functionally. So right now it's just a lot of imitation, but once you just model for him a couple times, he can play with it, no problem. So with the functional pretend play program, with the kitchen set and everything, it's really good for him, because since he has so many issues with feeding, he can play with the spoons, the forks, and not worry about having to actually feed himself anything. He can pretend to feed himself, feed me, feed the baby. There isn't an outcome where he has to eat anything at all. Look, go. You tried. Nice job. Very good. So, yeah, so having and handling fake food isn't a problem, but when it comes to actually seeing real food, he can totally tell the difference, and he sometimes just refuses, or most of the time just doesn't even touch it, versus all these things, he has no problem. Cut. Good job. You want to peel the orange? What is this? Say orange.
Orange.
Here, peel it. There you go. Nice job. His mom has been having children shoot themselves, like brushing their teeth, jumping. And the other day, she showed me one where the kids were jumping. And he was watching it. And after that, he was actually jumping and imitating them too. And he actually got air, which we've been working on for a couple weeks already. When he sees the kids actually talking to him, he wants to do it even more.
So these are made by friends of yours?
Yeah, they posted them onto his website called Watch Me, Jack Riley.
And who came up with that idea?
That was my idea because he likes to watch kids on TV. And he thinks it's all very funny. But we need to get them eating. And I think that will help him tremendously. Do you want to watch the kids jump now?
They're talking to you!
Bye, Jack Riley. Do you want to watch the ABCs or do you want to watch jumping again? ABCs or jumping? Jumping. You made that clear. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
It's a combination of some of those letters.
P, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Yay! Do you want to make your sounds?
Who's that?
Potty.
Yeah. And who's that over there?
Potty.
No, who's that over there?
Daddy.
Yeah, that's Daddy. How over there? Who's that?
Jessica, I don't know my name. It's
too hard.
Jessica.
Jessica. Yeah, but the hard ones are the ones he breaks out without problem.
Yeah, yellow.
We were playing with
Yellow
the
came out of nowhere.
Riley.
Yellow and Riley, yeah,
We
exactly.
were playing with the dolls, and I named the baby, the mommy and the daddy, and he said Bommy.
Yeah, I think I'm getting the M now.
It's getting closer.
I have him say
It's
milk
not
in the morning,
not the start
and
word,
now
no.
I'm just starting with instead of, because if I say milk, he'll say ba.
Oh.
So if I say milk, he'll say ba.
Ba.
How old are you?
Daddy.
Daddy.
Yeah.
How old are you?
Ho.
How old?
Ho.
Two.
What's your name? What's your name? Can you say Jack?
Riley.
Jack Riley.
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 That's clear.
Riley.
Can you say Jack Riley?
Tell Riley.
Very good. How old are you? How old are you?
How old are you?
4.
How old are you, Jack? Hey. Jack.
He likes looking at you guys through this so much.
How old are you?
2.
Are you 2?
Are you 468? No. How old is Jack? How old is Jack? Say, I'm 2.
I'm 2.
Yay! Good job.
I'm 2. I'm 2 also.
Is Daddy 2?
I'm too many.
Love this series. Have I mentioned that? You can be watching the A Word and watch more up-to-date videos. You can see when they took on toilet training. We're showing you the YouTube site right now. Start from the beginning or start from the end, doesn't matter, go back and forth. But they're so, I think, hopeful and informative, and as someone whose child has gone through that, I think very accurate. You're only seeing a snippet, but I can tell you that it's very accurate as to what it's like process-wise. The lessons are going to be different for individual children, and the rate in which they learn are going to be different, but I think some of the emotions that the parents talk about are really to the bone honest and accurate from my perspective. A couple of different things that I wanted to talk about. You saw in the beginning that they're working with Jack Riley on a coax, that they're literally they're saying a sound and getting him to say the sound. And sometimes we think of those lessons and think, oh, well, they're just so boring, right? And how would that be interesting? And we know we need to make it exciting and fun. But you see, and if you didn't notice, we'll show it again on Thursday, but you can watch it yourself on YouTube. Go back and see how the therapist is using the toys, and it's all part of play. But she's making sure that she gives that SD, that she's saying the sound and he's saying the sound, and then he gets the reinforcement for it. Really, really important that we make it fun. So if you ever think that a lesson is boring and dull, think again. Think about how are you going to make it more exciting. Also, do you notice how, and this is not just Jack Riley, a lot of our kids on the spectrum, not all of them, but a lot of them are intrigued by the whole camera. I'm looking through this lens and I'm seeing you, and then I'm seeing this thing on the TV. They're very interested sometimes in the mechanics of that and what it is. Jack Riley always wants to get behind the camera, and there at the end you get to see his view of things because he's there behind the camera looking at his parents talking to him through the viewfinder of the camera. It's a really interesting thing to get his perspective of how things look. And also for us as parents, if you've got an old digital camera, I really don't love, there are a lot of kids' cameras that are out there on the market, but they tend to be grainy and fuzzy and aren't really reinforcing, because when we take a picture, we want to be able to see what the picture is of, right? So I recommend, if you've got an old camera that you don't care if it falls and drops, there was one that I dropped that just, broke off part of the lens, but it still works, right? It still works and it takes great pictures. It just doesn't shutter anymore. So I have a new camera, and my son loves to take pictures. Even when he was 3, before I dropped the silly camera, it was something that we let him do, and we actually put together one of those photo books of his pictures because he took the most amazing. It was just so interesting to see his perspective of how he looked at things. Really, really exciting, and he loved it. And it was one of the things that we could do that to help him. He would take pictures when we were doing labels. We would go and I would put something in front of him. He'd take a picture of it, and that would be the thing that we would use when we were doing labels. He took pictures of his friends. You saw that at one point, friends, Jack Riley loves to watch videos of kids, and that's a wonderful strength to build on. I call it the Teletubby factor. You know, when you watch too much of the Teletubbies, and they always have those videos that are kids engaged in an activity. And if your child loves that kind of thing, it can be something that you can really use to help to build your child's skills, because it's a way, I don't know, it's like it's one removed. We want our kids to be interested in other kids, right? Sometimes it's so much when the kids are there live, but being able to see and attempt to interact. I realize it's a screen, but here were kids who were talking to Jack Riley, and you can do this via Skype, or have a relative send you a video where they're talking to your child. If it's something that your child finds reinforcing, it could be a really cool tool to use. And you could see Jack Riley's face just lighting up when he was watching the kids jump, and he was jumping with them. And for some reason, sometimes it's enough removed that they can be excited, and it can help them to build towards really wanting to be social children, in my humble opinion. Because we did something similar to that with my child, and he just loved it. And he is a huge social butterfly. Of course, you're going to do other things with your child to help build their social skills, but if this is reinforcing, what a great tool. All right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to bring in Evelyn Gould, BCBA, Board Certified Behavior Analyst, and have Evelyn, it's Tuesday, thank heavens, have Evelyn help us to deal with some of the things that we all have going on. If you have questions, specific questions about flexibility, inflexibility, or anything under the sun, shoot them over our way. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with Evelyn. Happy Halloween. We're here today to show you some really easy, healthy recipes that you can make for Halloween with your children. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is make this lovely cauliflower brain. And the ingredients that we need for this, we need some sort of a platter. We need a cauliflower, and we have an organic cauliflower here. Emily, take it away for us.
We have some natural guacamole, some organic salsa, some potato chips, and then some pull string licorice.
Okay, so those are all the things that we're going to need. Plus, we have a very sharp knife and a spoon. So using the knife and preparing the cauliflower can be something you can do beforehand, but you call the children in, depending on their ages and their skill level. All right, so we're going to pull the leaves off of this and put the pieces away. You can compost them if you do that sort of thing, or just throw them away. You want to remove all of the green. This part might be fun, actually, for the kids. It's a difficult one. I'm just going to slice this part off and pull some more of the green out, because there's no green on the brain. But one key thing here is that we want to slice off just the tip here so that it's going to sit flat like a brain. And this is the point where the kids can be really helpful. If you have it already measured, and that's about 1.5 cups of salt, so whatever size platter you're using, and you can have them dump it right on the plate, and that's a pretty enjoyable part of it. Swish it around. Okay, we can put the cauliflower right in the middle of it, and you can see how easy this is. Super duper easy, has big impact if you're doing a Halloween party, but it's also having fun with your veggies, something that we want to do with the kids. And we can take the chips. I'm going to let you do that with the licorice while I throw some chips around the plate. And these, by the way, are organic, oven fried, no salt chips. You can use whatever you want, but we want to keep this as healthy as possible. And she's laying those laces around so they look like the veins of the brain that has gone bad. You can see it just takes a couple of minutes and you end up with this lovely, delicious, healthy brain for the children to eat. And it looks good on the table too. Tastes good too, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Right now, what we're gonna make are hot dog mummies. These are really fun. You can see our finished ones over here. We only need a few things for this. We need some hot dogs. Right now we're using organic chicken hot dogs that are fully cooked, which is a wonderful thing. We have some mustard. We have some all-natural crescent dough on a plastic sheet that we can roll it out on. We have our rolling pin. I have a little bit of coconut flour, but you can use any kind of flour that you want. This just smells awesome, and we have a sharp knife. So this is the part of the project that we want to be careful around kids. You could use a duller knife or a plastic knife, or do this part yourself when the kids aren't around. But if you open up your refrigerated dough and you roll it out, just throw a little bit of coconut flour onto it so that it doesn't stick as much to the rolling pin, and roll it out so that you can't see the lines anymore. Oh, it smells good, doesn't it? I love the smell of coconut flour. And it bakes really a wonderful scent too into the whole house. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because the great thing about this recipe is that it's very forgiving. If the dough breaks when you're wrapping up the hot dog, it's okay, because the mummy can have lots of different bandages. All right, we're gonna go and just cut through this dough. And they can be different width strips, it doesn't really matter. And you really could do this with a plastic knife. I want to mention too that if you have dietary considerations and you need something to be gluten-free, I did this the other day for my son with a gluten-free pizza crust mix, and it worked the same. I just had to be really careful. I thought that the key to it all was getting the dough really dry while I was rolling it out and cutting it out, and then wetting it before I wrapped it around the dry hot dogs. Okay, so I'm gonna take one hot dog and Emily's gonna take another, and part of the fun of this is that you want to make like a little hat so that there is a place later on to put eyeballs made out of mustard. So you can wrap it around the head, make like a turban for your mummy, and then start to, and you see it broke. Doesn't matter, because it's dough and it can be a separate bandage. It's not a problem. You just wrap it around. The kids love this because they know they're going to get to eat it later on. It's very healthy and a quick dinner that makes it really fun. You just slather it on. And then we're going to bake it for about 12 to 14 minutes at a 350-degree oven. See, easy. He's got a head. Oh, yours is so much prettier than mine. She's Martha Stewart. Okay, so we're gonna put that into the oven. We don't need to do anything else, and I put it on some parchment paper so that I don't have to use any kind of spray or oil or anything and add ingredients. We're gonna stick it into the oven, and through magic, this is what they look like when they're done. And the other fun element of this is that then you take the mustard and you can give it to the kids for them to put eyes right on, and Emily's gonna do that. Awesome. And if you want bloody mummies, you can include ketchup. So, those are big eyes. The other day when I did this with my son, he wanted to put sliced olives on top of the mustard for eyes. But you can see that these are cute, they're tasty, and really healthy. Those are mummy hot dogs. And you can write Happy Halloween in mustard if you're Martha Stewart. Very good.
All right, we're gonna move on to some spooky spider cupcakes. So what you're gonna wanna do is bake a box of regular brand cupcake, or they have gluten-free, sugar-free options as well.
Awesome ones, yes.
Which are great. I pre-made these cupcakes standard. Cupcake rules apply. You'll need some eggs and some oil and water. But we've gone ahead and done that already. So what you wanna do is take some chocolate frosting, and we're gonna frost our cupcake with a thin layer. Doesn't need to be too crazy.
Ooh.
Yes.
Smells good too.
Does smell good. And then we brought some blue sprinkles, and these are naturally colored with vegetable juice, correct?
Vegetable juice, blue.
Which is fantastic. And so these are blue. And then we're gonna just sprinkle the top of our cupcake here.
Awesome.
For eyes, I just got some jelly beans here of different colors. You can use M&Ms or whatever you're more comfortable using. And all you wanna do is split your jelly bean in half. So there's your eyeball, Shannon.
Awesome.
I'll have orange eyes on mine. And then you're just going to place them in the front of the cupcake. And then for their little scary legs, we've got some pull and peel Twizzler here, but they also sell natural candy rope, which you can use as well. So then we're just going to pull off our little legs, and the cupcakes are soft enough where you can actually stick the little leg right into it.
And you're just jamming them down?
Just jam them in there.
Alrighty. Ooh, look at that leg.
And this is a good time to teach your kids about bugs and that they have 8 legs.
That's a great thing to add to the lesson. And you know, there's lots of different other things too. Like I have frosting on my hands, and sometimes kids don't like that. It's a flexibility issue. But this is a wonderful way in which to work on those things so that, you know, they can take those skills with them later on. If it's at home and it's a little bit of frosting with you, it's a little bit more reinforcing because it tastes good than if they're on the schoolyard and it's mud and things like that.
And then once you're done, you have your little 8-legged friend.
Mine looks like he needs a haircut, but but they're very fun and they taste good, and the kids will enjoy working on these.
That's right, and they're super cute.
They are. And that's Halloween. Healthy and fast and fun. Welcome back to Autism Live. Our special guest right now, it's Tuesday, so we have BCBA Board Certified Behavior Analyst Evelyn Gould back with us. Thank you. I'm so glad to have you back.
I'm just admiring your spider buns.
Yes. We did some Halloween cooking crafts.
I'm quite impressed by the cauliflower brain, but it's less appetizing.
Yes, well, probably the cupcakes are more appealing to most people, but I like the cauliflower. That guacamole, in fact, tasted so good. It was like the world's best guacamole. And I do love cauliflower, so I love my veg. And I know you do too.
I do.
And
I'm not a guacamole fan though.
Really?
Yeah, I'm trying really hard to like avocados. I just can't.
My husband doesn't like avocados either.
It's the texture and the taste is just...
Yeah. My husband grew up with an avocado tree in his backyard and here in Southern California, and they ate avocados all the time, and I think he just hit a threshold at 8.
I know they do. They put avocados in absolutely everything, like salads that just don't normally have avocado, like Caesar salads with avocados in. No, I've noticed this.
It is a California thing. It is. I mean, because they grow on trees here, literally. Too funny. Well, and we're talking about flexibility today.
I know.
And so the whole flexibility of avocados, it kind of goes with, we haven't diverged too far from the conversation. Interesting. Because people have their preferences.
This is true.
And what's the difference between a preference and something that you're inflexible about? I never really thought about this before.
I think when we talk about inflexibility in our field, we're talking about when it starts to interfere with functioning. So it's fine to have preferences and to not want to do things or not want to try new things, but it's when it becomes an issue where it's interfering with your ability to function normally in the world or learn and stuff, and that's when we'd start to talk about inflexibility as a problem.
Okay, so you could like avocados, but if you had to have avocado on everything you ate, at some point that would be... To the exclusion
of everything else. Like
right,
say
that could become
it becomes where you only eat avocados, then we might be like, you've got some inflexibility issues with regards to food.
Okay.
Because it becomes a problem in terms of your nutrition.
Right.
And your ability probably to eat anywhere else.
Right. And likewise, on the other side of it, you know, you could be somebody who doesn't like avocados, but if you can't sit next to somebody who's eating avocado in their salad, you have such an aversion then.
Especially in California.
Especially in California. This could be a problem. This could be a very big problem. Okay, good. Good to know. We had somebody write in yesterday about inflexibility around the potty ritual. And they were saying that there's a lot of different inflexibility, that it's inflexibility with who accompanies them to the bathroom, the series of steps that they take, and that it's quite troublesome. So we were talking about that just a little bit earlier, and I promised that we would get your take on it. It's kind of common, isn't it?
Yeah, well, certainly inflexibility in general and with regards to sort of routine activities. So not just the potty routine, but say the specific way that the child wants to wash their face in the morning, or the specific order of things that have to happen at breakfast time, or the specific way that they have to brush their teeth and so on. So that is really common.
Okay.
Or even like the way that it could be the extreme, like the way that the schedule, if you have a visual schedule, I had a child who had really major difficulties with the way that the schedule was used. And sometimes the thing is that you don't even notice that there's a problem until one day randomly something can't happen in the order it's supposed to, or somebody new comes along and messes up the routine and you didn't know there was a routine.
Right.
And then you get massive tantrums and issues, and that's certainly what happened in my mind when I'm thinking the little girl that I'm thinking of. So it is a really common problem with our kids with autism, and we can almost shape up the inflexibility by accident, by just without realizing, like I'm saying, like, so you just get into the pattern of you're teaching your child a routine and you just keep doing the routine. That's just the way that you do it, and then you're kind of introducing an inflexibility or potential for inflexibility without even realizing it. Does that make sense?
Yes. In fact, somebody wrote in yesterday, because the question yesterday was, how is your child inflexible? Today it was, how do you help your child not be inflexible? And somebody wrote in and said, my child used to be inflexible, but I made such a habit of doing things in lots of different ways that now I think my child is more flexible than a typical child of their age, and I could definitely see how that could be. That you could, it's a thing that can swing either way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can do it inadvertently, both ways.
I'm thinking like some of the kids that in the school that I worked with, a lot of them had major issues with the car and driving to school, and that they had to be driven in a specific way to school. And if the, you know, everything from the route to if they stopped at certain places too much, then the child would have like a little bit of a meltdown.
Right.
So, but they kind of shaped that up by accident because they just happened to always go this one way to school, and then one day they have to go a different way because the road was closed or something, and then it's suddenly like, uh-oh, we got this major problem.
Right, and it really literally becomes a major problem for some of our kids. And not that far away for us. I mean, we see that and you and I were talking about this before, we all have inflexibility issues with different things. And we get into patterns, and when something goes off from the pattern, it kind of throws everything off.
But the difference is that, you know, that it's okay to have, like we're saying at the start, it's okay to have some inflexibility if it's not interfering with your ability to function. But I've seen kids who basically their inflexibility is controlling the entire family's life, and it starts to take over their entire being. And so every single part of their day and their interaction with the family is controlled by the way that the child needs things to be. And that's very, like, obviously debilitating.
Okay. And I think all of us can think of one thing that is either encroaching on that or already being that way.
I mean, we all have, like you said, we all have our little inflexibilities, and I know I have things that I like to be done a certain way, and I'll have like a mini whenever I'm not able to do something a certain way, or something doesn't happen the way that I normally want it to be.
We all do.
But I get over it.
And life goes on. And work doesn't have to stop. And we don't have to, you know, call in reinforcements like we do sometimes with our kids. So, but we can work on those inflexibility issues with the kids, right? And tell us, and obviously with the example with the child, we don't know enough about what's going on, but we can talk in some generalities about how we work on inflexibility to change it.
I mean, the first thing is to not try and change everything all at once. And so when you've pinpointed what your child is inflexible with, and usually the other thing to remember is that just fixing one thing is not going to necessarily fix the problem, because children who have our children on the spectrum in particular, if they have like an inflexibility issue with one thing, it's likely that they have an inflexibility issue kind of overall. So you're not really fixing the toilet routine, you're kind of needing to fix an overarching issue of inflexibility.
Important.
So, but that also is a good thing in the sense that that means that you could target, you don't have to go in straight away to the major problem to try and start working on this. So you can start picking some other little things that you can start changing to work on flexibility that are less challenging.
So don't take on the big things to begin with.
So, you know, if you have a child who has an overall flexibility issue and they're having major tantrums with like X, Y, and Z, then you can start like manipulating other things in their environment. So I'm thinking of like a little boy where he had major issues with particular routines, and we just started like, for want of a better word, messing with his world a little bit. But messing on a level like just, you know, turning over the corner of the mat, and which he really wanted to fix, and not allowing him to fix it. And he would have a little bit of an issue with that, but not like a major meltdown. So we just started introducing like little things that he had to deal with and tolerate, and then built up to fixing the bigger issues. Or you can take a routine and just try and fix one tiny part of it. Like we talk a lot about breaking things down into steps. So just getting him to be flexible with one little part of the routine.
Yes.
Maybe like if he has an issue, if this child has an issue with who takes him to the bathroom, perhaps you keep the person that he needs there to start with, and you introduce another person to go with that person, so you have two people, and you gradually will fade out the person that he's having a difficulty with, and then start switching in and out the people. So you just want to start small with manageable.
Right.
You don't want to, because it's very difficult, like we talk about extinction and working through like major tantrums, but it's very hard to do.
Yes.
So if you're not going to be able to do that, which likely you aren't if you're on your own as parent, without support of a BCBA or something, then I suggest that you target the things that are not going to cause the massive meltdowns.
Yeah, and it totally makes sense. And I just while you were talking, I was remembering that one of the big inflexibility issues that Jem had, you know the game Koule? It's these bug bodies, and you roll the dice, and then you get to add one other part to the body. And he had there was a picture on the box of a specific Koule. And when you play, and there's a group of children, you can take any body part, so the head doesn't necessarily match the body, and the feet don't all necessarily match, so on and so forth. Well, he had to make the Koule that was on the picture on the box, or it was full-on hysteria. I mean, you know, total, you know, eyes running, the snot running, hysteria, screaming, seething, teeming, horrible. And I'm just remembering that what they started doing was working on in Candyland that somebody wouldn't follow the rules. And he would say, hey, you know, and they would work through him interacting with another child, not doing what he wanted to, and gradually got to the Koule so that they didn't take Koule on, because Koule was such a big deal.
And the other thing you can do is, like, I'm thinking about this little girl who had the inflexibility issue with the schedule, and what the problem was for her was that one day a therapist, she would get to the end of the session and there would be like she wanted to put the last icon in the all done box. Or the therapist would put the icon in the all done box, there was nothing on the schedule, and then she would go off, and this new person came along and didn't remove the last thing. It was like, off you go. And she had a massive meltdown, and she didn't have language. She had some signs, but she couldn't. We did not know what she was having a meltdown about, because it did not occur to us that we didn't know there was an inflexibility issue with the schedule. We just didn't know, because it had never happened before. And this new therapist obviously had no clue. So this child had this massive meltdown, and then eventually we realised, oh, it's because the icon's still on the schedule. So what we had to do with her was we left the icon on and had her count on her fingers like 3 seconds, and then she was allowed to take it. Then the therapist would take it off. So we built up the tolerance for it. And then we also introduced then some proper inflexibility work outside of that, because that was like a major thing. And we worked really hard on that. So you just need to approach it in this kind of small steps view, and then gradually build up. So this person you talked about who said their child used to have a really major inflexibility issue, but she worked on a bunch of stuff, and now he's not. He didn't have that inflexibility anymore. So I'm sure that she didn't just work on one thing. She was kind of working across the board on flexibility.
Which it sounds like it's very
And just
key.
always then thinking about everything that you go to do, just thinking about not setting yourself up for flexibility, which is really hard work sometimes. But if your child starts a new school thinking like, maybe I shouldn't drive the same way to school all the time, or, you know, just being aware of that. Or maybe...
I think being aware of that, but also realizing that you are going to mess up sometimes, and that is fixable.
And like I said, but like with this little girl, where we had all these really skilled behavior analysts working, and we just didn't even realize that we were setting up this issue. We had no idea until someone else came along who didn't do it that way.
And then you see.
So it's going to happen.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to take on flexibility with language, because my child right now is having an inflexibility issue with language, and I'm going to ask Evelyn about that. And we're also taking your questions, so feel free to write in. Stick with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
My name's Matthias and I'm 8 years old. My brother's Christian and he's 10 and he has autism. What I like about Christian is his sense of humor. He makes me laugh a lot. The most fun I've been with Christian is when we go into the ocean and we play. When Christian and I are in the ocean, you can't really tell Christian has autism. Christian would like to swim across the ocean. It's hard for him to talk, and when it does, it's like it just comes out with like not right. He has the words locked inside of him. Sometimes people stare and it's a little uncomfortable. At night, there's always a loud sound of Christian crying in the other room. It's one of the times that's hard to have a brother with autism. I would like the world to actually find something that could help Christian with his autism.
Visit autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our special guest today is Evelyn Gould, BCBA Board Certified Behavior Analyst, and so thrilled to have you here today. We were talking when you came in about flexibility and language flexibility, and my son has recently popped, because things pop up. Be clipping along and then something just pops up, and he is saying somehow to start every single sentence. So if you ask him a question and you say, Jem, what are you doing with that game? And he'll say, well, somehow this character comes in and he does this. Or you say, what would you like to do this afternoon? Well, somehow I was thinking that it's just over and over and over again. And I'm a little flummoxed by it. And I've tried talking to him about it, and he says, but I want to say that. And I've tried saying to him, well, I'm going to reward you for the absence of it. So if you don't say somehow for the next 10 minutes, you'll get X, Y, or Z. But he tends to forget. So it tends to be me saying, you just said it again, and then he gets frustrated and goes, but I want to say it.
Yeah.
But it's way too much.
Yeah.
And our kids, and I can remember other times as we were developing language that he would get stuck on something, but he's just at a different age now.
Yeah.
And I haven't quite found the thing yet to get him out of saying somehow. I've tried giving him other suggestions of things to say, because when it started a couple weeks ago, he said, well, I don't know what else to say. And we went through all the different, but they're not as much fun to him, apparently. They're not as reinforcing to him. So tell me, and obviously, the same thing goes for my child as goes for your child. Evelyn cannot give child-specific because it's not like she's there and seeing the whole thing. You're just getting little snippets of what I'm saying. But when the child has inflexibility with language, what kinds of things can we do? What's in our arsenal for that?
Well, basically, we teach the child various different things to say.
Okay, so I just need to hit that a little harder.
And it might be that your child needs different supports with that. So sometimes it might be like having like a little visual, so they have a choice of things that they could say. And you're trying to, the key is trying to get in there before they say the thing that they're always saying, which is hard because if it is reinforcing. I mean, it's, I don't know what's going on with your kid. Right. I am thinking to an extent that's sort of like a little phase that sometimes younger kids do go through. Typically developing kids go through where they just like find this smart sounding little phrase that they like to use, and then they use it and use it.
For a long time, he would say
and then
actually.
They get over it.
He would say
exactly.
actually. Well, actually,
yes.
actually, and it was so cute that this child who hadn't been speaking was saying, well, actually.
I think. Yes. So that's kind of common in typical kids. They do little phases of that too. Obviously, though, with our kids, we don't want to just assume that it's going to pass. Right. Be a passing phase.
Right.
Because it might not.
And it doesn't seem to be passing.
Okay.
So, but I already, now you give me an idea, I need to hit that a little, and the visual, because what he doesn't like is when I correct him. So if I hold up a visual beforehand.
And there's like a choice of things to say. Or with him, maybe you don't need to give him the choices. Maybe you just are making him aware that he should say something else. I don't know.
I'm thinking if I tape it to his DS, that like even if he just feels it, it might remind him.
And then remembering that everything's always about opportunities, so presenting opportunities to practice, not saying that thing. So you're going to have conversations with him and ask him, and then immediately be like, let's practice not saying that thing.
Yes.
And then of course rewarding him and trying to find some other things that are reinforcing and making him feel like he has other smart things to say.
Yes.
You know?
It's so interesting to me as a parent because we're never going to be done.
No.
I always want to, and in other things in my life, I want to arrive. I want to arrive and be done, right? And it's not that I want to be done parenting, but, and it's not even that I want to be done per se with autism, but it's so interesting that, you think you're done with one thing like compliance. This is always my thing with compliance. I'm like, oh, yay, we got compliance on board. Now I can go, oh, look, compliance is back again. And oh, look, compliance is back again. I keep thinking, even though I know, and we talk about this on the show, that we're never done with that. Because as soon as we get one compliance thing, they grow and they learn, and there are new compliance things to be applied. But I do have this thinking in my head, is that me being inflexible? Is that what that
that's
is?
you being human, Shannon, honestly.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
And actually, I think probably any parent I'm sure any parent must at some point just be like, am I done with this yet? Am I done with this
Yes.
parenting, teaching my child how to be a person thing yet? You know, I don't know if that ever goes away for anyone.
I'm guessing it doesn't, because we're
like,
just
even when you're like, okay, go off to college, done, my job is done, and I'm sure it still isn't.
I'm sure that it isn't either. And I see the teenage years looming. I mean, I have a couple of years yet, but I see them looming. We went to a birthday party the other day, and it was all 10 to 13-year-olds, and I was frightened.
Mm-hmm.
I was frightened. And these were neurotypical kids. I was frightened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not ready for this yet. But I know that there's help and support, and that gradually I will start to know what to do.
Well, hopefully you'll know what to do, but you know, I think you hit the nail on the head just with that, in that your child's always going to be faced with new things as they get older, that just the environment changes and the things that they have to deal with change.
Yes.
It's part of growing up. So you're always going to be trying to teach your child new things regardless of whether they have autism or not.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, you know, back to our flexibility, inflexibility, I think because we've had the benefit of ABA, he tends to be, in most things, in the vast majority of things, more flexible than I am. Mm-hmm. And he points that out to me on a regular basis.
Good.
He does. He'll say to me, Mom, and he doesn't use those words, but one of the new things, somebody had written in on the show about a month ago about letting her child go on a play date.
Yeah, I think we talked about that.
Yes, we did talk about it. And I said, yeah, no, I haven't done this yet. And of course, this has been the big new thing the last couple of weeks, that a friend has been coming over to our house, and he would now like to have Jem come to his house. And I thought of every excuse that I could think of. But my son would not let me get away with that. He kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And so I made it the reward for something, that if he did something that he had been having some difficulty doing, that if he got to a certain thing, then, and he was able to do it. So in the next...
Were you able to do it?
Well, we haven't done it yet because schedule with Halloween and all these activities, but he knows that he has earned that, and that as soon as, because I can't control when he can go to the other child's house, which is tough for reinforcement. But everybody is in agreement that he's going to go and do it. I think it's going to be a 10-minute, because I need to work up to for my inflexibility issues. Because really, that's what it's about. It's not about his. But, you know, that seems reasonable to me, that he could go for 10, maybe 15 minutes, and that we could work up from there. But there's a lot of...
Well, I think that sounds like a really good plan, because then you're also not setting yourself up for failure. You want to set yourself up for success, and you don't want to set the boundary and be too far, you know, and say, I'm going to let you go play at your friends for an hour, because that gives you an hour of time potentially when something might start to go wrong. And so doing the 10 minutes and then building up slowly sounds like a very good idea.
Yes, and I'll pace outside, and the friend's house. I mean, I know the family, and they're wonderful and kind, and it's nothing to do with them. And fortunately, they're also, they know it doesn't have to do with them. You know what I mean? Which is a really nice thing, so that I have room to be my paranoid helicopter parent self, and they're not offended, because that's the last thing in the world I think any of us really ever wants to do, is offend another parent. But flexibility, inflexibility, is important for all of us.
It is. I mean, I'm always working on my own, and sometimes you're not aware, like I said, you're not even aware that there's an issue till somebody messes with it.
Yes.
And then you realize you have to work on something.
Yes. But we can.
You can.
The principles of ABA, make it rewarding, don't take it all on, little bits at a time, maybe work on other parts of it before we get to the hard part. Okay. Well, I thank you so much for being here, and we'll look forward to you being back with us next week. And you guys can continue to send in questions about anything that we talk about here, whether it's beforehand or day of. We're going to take a break. We're going to say goodbye to Evelyn, and we're going to come back and talk just briefly, because we're not going to be here for Halloween tomorrow, so we're going to talk briefly about Halloween. Stick with us.
I think scientists will all agree that that autism is the result of an interaction between genetics and environmental factors. Now, I think that which genes and which environmental factors are involved in that mix are still unknown. We have a lot of different clues, I think the most important takeaway is that it's the interplay between the genetics and the environment that could increase risk for autism. So as we talk about the environmental factors that could be implicated, what we're really talking about are factors that can either increase or decrease the risk. So there's no factor in and of itself that's going to cause autism. The twin study really suggested and provided evidence in support of this notion that the shared environment it could be really critical, because the data that I presented showed that there's an increase in concordance rates among fraternal twins. And just to take a step back, fraternal twins genetically are no different from full siblings that are just born at different times. Right. So genetically, there really is no difference between those twins born at the same time, the fraternal twins, and siblings born apart. So, and yet the rates, the concordance rates, where one child has autism and the other has autism or is somewhere on the spectrum, they're significantly higher than what you would expect at random. Right. Now, we do know that it's even greater than the sibling recurrence rate, and the sibling recurrence rate is around 20%. And that means if you already have a child with autism, there's a 20% likelihood that your next child will develop an autism spectrum disorder. Right. And that certainly is different from the population rate of 1%. Right. What was important and what was highlighted was the degree to which the environment can play can play a role in the development of ASD.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm not going to be here tomorrow for Halloween, so I felt like I needed to do something to commemorate the day. I hope that all of you have an amazing and safe Halloween. I know a lot of people have had a rough couple of days with Hurricane Sandy, and that you might be looking at, I can't, with the nose, I can't breathe. You might be looking at more days without power. Just want to remind everybody that obviously those of you who don't have power aren't watching this, but it's a great wake-up call for the rest of us to make sure that we have taken precautions for our kids. I saw a great tip on Facebook last night that instead of having to deal with flashlights and things that kids can have to take batteries out of, because I know my son, when early on in the spectrum, if there were anywhere that there was a flashlight, he would take it apart within 20 seconds so that you couldn't put it back together. So we always had a hard time having a working flashlight someplace. And I was always concerned about the batteries because he would take it all apart, including the batteries. So the idea on Facebook was to get a couple of those really inexpensive, they're solar lawn picks, but they are plastic, so you can have it without the pick. So it just is a hollow tube, and it's got some sort of thing on the top. You pull the little tab, and you leave them outside, and they will charge, and you can use them for flashlights for kids when the power is out. And I thought, what an amazing, amazing idea. I know we have some at our house that we got on sale. They look like they're for 4th of July, and we got them for 25 cents a piece. At the most expensive, you can go to a dollar store and get them for $1. Keep them around your house so that they light the walkways, but if the power goes out and it's out for a couple of days, it's always something that you can go and grab. It's charged, and you can use safely for a child. It's something that you could lay next to their bed, and if they needed to make a run to the bathroom, they could be using that. But again, important to, there's a part that comes with it that's a pick. That part you would want to take and throw away because it has a very sharp edge on the bottom of it. But they come, and you have to pull the pick out and turn it around and attach it to it to stick it into the ground. So just take that part out, throw it away. A really inexpensive flashlight that's going to work in those situations, and you're not going to have to look for batteries. They're totally solar powered. So I thought, what a great thing to share with everyone. And those of us who haven't been in the earthquake, maybe taking the time to get a few of those, or take the ones, remember to take the ones that are already in the lawn to keep them around. I also want to remind everybody that tomorrow, when it's for Halloween, and I'm laughing because this is as much for myself as anybody else, to keep our expectations someplace that's manageable. That our expectation, if we have one or two things that we want to work on with our child during this Halloween season, what would it be? What would be the list of things? And take the time to be able, if your child has receptive communication, to convey that with them. You know, this is what we're going to work on. If it's a social thing, make sure that it's just one thing, because Halloween is a bombardment to the senses, right? So we don't have this expectation that all of a sudden on Halloween they're going to get along perfectly and be the social butterfly in all aspects of the day, right? So keeping it, the expectations real, not low, but in a place where it's manageable, that you set it up and say, okay, if we can do this and this, and accomplish those, then there's got to be some reinforcement for you, and there's got to be some reinforcement for your child. Keep the expectation of how much of the costume they'll wear and how much of it they'll keep on realistic. I always, you know, you've got either the pumpkin or the bag or whatever, and that's where the pieces of the costume that get shed along the way go into the bag, and get the pictures early in the afternoon with all the costume on if you can, and if you can't, let go of it. But as the evening progresses, all the kids take elements of it off, and we just let it go so that we can enjoy the holiday with our kids. It's supposed to be a happy and joyous time for them. If you can find one element of the holiday that's happy and joyous with your child, that's a win, right? But not this expectation that the entire thing end to end, like so many holidays, it's unrealistic, right? And there's going to be a lot of dark, some things that are going to be overwhelming for our kids. Make sure that they have those wonderful glow sticks. Important that if you have a child who puts things in their mouth, to make sure that they don't have access to that. But the glow sticks are really good too. They're decorative, help you for oncoming cars, and being able to, you know, be able to spot your child when they go up to the door, because you know that they've got 12 green glow sticks attached to them. I don't think you can be too ridiculous when it's dark outside in terms of making it safe. So please be safe. Please find something to enjoy with your child. And it doesn't have to be what everybody else enjoys. And keep the expectations in a realistic point of view. And if your child likes it for you to dress up, then by all means, don a crazy wig. If that's something that makes them happy. Couple of programming notes as we close the show. I want to remind everybody that in a week from tomorrow, on November 7th, Ask Dr. Doreen starts. This is a wonderful weekly segment that we're going to be doing with Dr. Doreen Granpeche, a visionary in the field of autism. She will be with us for an hour on Wednesday mornings answering your questions. You can write into us anytime. Some of you have already started writing in questions on Facebook and bringing them to us here on the live forum. We're keeping a list of them, and we'll be taking live questions on the day of. Again, every Wednesday starting November 7th, Ask Dr. Doreen. I also want to remind those of you who are in the Chicago area that on November 17th, the Chicago office of the Center for Autism and Related Disorders is having an open house. I know many of you have written into us, and that's a Saturday, by the way. So if you want to come from a further distance away, you can, but the Chicago office, November 17th, will have an open house. You are invited to come and bring your children with you. Isn't that a lovely thing? How often do you come across that? Bring your children with you. There will be therapists there to have activities to do with children of all ages. And by the way, the Chicago office deals with individuals from the ages of 2 to 21. So bring your children to that event. You can, Emily just showed their site. You can RSVP and tell them that you're coming, and that is a Saturday. And on Thursday of this week, we are going to be joined by Travis Breeding. He is a young man on the autism spectrum who has written a total of 6 books. He's got a new book out, an ebook about social interaction that we're really excited about having an opportunity to talk to Travis. So that will be at 1:20 Eastern Time on Thursday, 10:20 Pacific Time. And also on Thursday, we will have BCBA Angela Persicki will be with us. So all of that on Thursday. As this show ends, I want to remind you that the conversation continues, and Emily's going to start to show you some of the different ways that you can be in contact with us, whether it's through email or Facebook or tweeting. We really appreciate the opportunity to interact with you, and you guys add so much to the conversation. So she's going to show you all the different ways that you can get in touch with us. And I also want to remind you that there are many ways to watch the show. The only way that you can watch the show live right now, though, is on autism-live.com. But many other different ways that you can watch the show. So if you miss a show, you can watch us on blip.tv. If there's a specific topic that you want to search, you can do that on our YouTube channel. And you can download entire episodes with sound and picture on iTunes for free. It's absolutely free. One of the things that I am most excited about is that we want the information that we provide to you to be available to you no matter what time of day or night, and for it not to cost you anything. When my son was first diagnosed, I was on the hunt for information, and when I would find information, I would be bummed because it would be far away, or it would be at the same time that our clinic was, or the same time that his speech or OT was, or it cost money and I had to have a babysitter to do it. So it's really important to me that we be available to you in all these different ways. So if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you can find us and find the information that you need. But we hope that you'll write in and tell us the kinds of things that you want to hear more about. We really listen to you. I know I'm so ridiculous in this wig, it's hard to watch. In any case, I want to thank you for the time that you spend with us and for helping me on this journey. I know that if we all hold hands on this journey, we can all see progress with our children. I'm not going to be here tomorrow because I'm with my son in his class tomorrow. So happy Halloween to all of you that celebrate it. We'll be back on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye.